Thank you. So we are so thrilled today to have with us Kelly McDonald. She is a professor of biology and also the director for the Center for Science and Math Success at Sacramento State University. Also, Kelly and I are both Pulse Fellows, and so we get to interact, and which has really been a really wonderful experience. So welcome, Kelly, and feel free to get started whenever you feel comfortable.
Okay, I will share my screen. Okay, let me get this. Well, thank you for having me. I absolutely love talking about this work that I've been doing for over a decade now, for about probably like 12 or 13, 14 years, something like that. I've lost track. But I'm also going to make this very interactive today. And since we've got a pretty manageable group here for some good discussion, and so I'm going to keep an eye on, let me just get myself set up here so that I can see people. Yeah. There's actually a big group of us that have been working on what we call the SIRIUS Project, and I'll tell you what that means in just a second. I've been working on this, like I said, for about 12 years, and we've had two iterations of SIRIUS. We had SIRIUS 1, and the other PI on that grant was Dr. Tom Landerholm. And then now we're at the very end of SIRIUS 2. And so these are my collaborators up here, other PIs, Julie Fogarty, Enid Gonzalez-Orta, Kathy Ishikawa, and Linda Zarzana. And we also have another very important group that works with us because they do most of our research related to the SIRIUS Project, and that is Team BEER, and that stands for Biologists Engaged in Education Research. Arik is on this call. He's part of Team BEER. And so I'll be talking about a little bit of their work today as well. So I wanted to start out, though, by just introducing you to Sacramento State. So we're a large urban, now we're an R2 institution, but for the majority of this work, we considered ourselves a comprehensive teaching institution, and kind of feel like we still consider ourselves a comprehensive teaching institution, even though we've gained R2 status, in the state's capital of Sacramento. And we have about 31,000 students, mostly undergrads. We're a Hispanic serving institution. We're an ANAPISI, so that's Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. We have a Black Honors College. We have a brand new California Tribal College. And I hear word that we are working on a Latinx honors college, which is really exciting. And so this is just to say we are a very diverse institution. And the diversity of our students really reflect the diversity of Sacramento. And we do have a significant number of first generation students, also a lot of Pell eligible. And I'm giving you a few numbers here from our biology major and our College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics, because that's where I come from. I am a professor of biological sciences, and I run a center for our college, which is the Natural Sciences and Mathematics. And the biology department is where this story begins, actually. So what I plan to do today is tell you a little bit about how we give you a little bit of background. So some of the history, we're going to go through 12 years really quickly. And so you can ask me any questions, but I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to all talk about some of this stuff. But this all started, I was hired at Sac State in 2009. And a lot of these reports right here are what got us thinking about the SIRIUS Project. AAC&U had come out with this list of high impact practices. We had Vision and Change, which made a big splash in the field of biology. And then the PCAST report, President's Council for, or Advisors for STEM Education, or for Science and Technology. came out in 2012. And the one thing that all of these had in common was that they were really promoting giving students more authentic experiences related to what people were doing in the professions that they were seeking, right? And so a lot of this involved giving them undergraduate research experiences, converting, kind of your traditional prescribed cookbook labs into cures or research-based labs. And so that was something that our department felt really strongly about and felt like it was also an attainable goal for us. And so I'm going to ask you all a question now before I tell you what the results of us asking this question to our own faculty was. But interested in, what barriers, if any, do students at your institution experience if they're seeking out research opportunities? And so would love for you all to either chime in or put something in the chat. That would be fine as well. I've got my chat up here so I can see that. But also if anybody wants to voice this, that is fine too. Budget. Yes. Yeah. So a lot of times the undergraduate research experiences that we ask students to engage in are unfunded experiences. And a lot of our students do not have the capacity to do anything that's unfunded, right? Definitely. Yep. Not being a research institution. We're in the same boat there. Not having traditional labs. Faculty teach. Yeah, only. The CCs or community colleges. Yep. Don't have the facilities, or maybe a lot, the faculty at the CCs often come from the same backgrounds as faculty who are at four-year institutions and master's granting, doctoral granting institutions, but they're not incentivized and there's no time in their schedules for them to do research. So, yeah. Let's see. Not knowing what research entails and knowing about the opportunities, absolutely. Trying to see if there's any others up here. Don't have the time with their classes, everything else in their lives. Yeah, our students have very complicated lives right now, and I'm sure that is not unique to my institution. I know that is a fact across the board. Not enough opportunities in labs to meet student demand. Right. So one of the the slide I showed on Sac State's about Sac State, with 1,400 majors, and I think that was actually we have a little bit more now, but that was at the time that we did some of these surveys in my institution, and we had like 16 faculty. At that time. So we've got more faculty now, but there were not enough research positions. That was a really big problem. Yeah, and then some students may not have enough experience for what faculty would like for them to join their laboratories. I know that we've got some faculty in our department who love having undergraduate researchers, but they need them to get through enough training before they can safely have them work in their labs. So, yep. Okay. Well, those are all great. I really appreciate you all providing those. And so these are just some of the barriers that have been published in the literature. Academic status is an issue. And so a lot of times students don't get undergraduate research experiences until their junior or senior years. And we know that we lose students primarily in their early years. And so having some authentic experiences earlier on might actually benefit from some of those students who leave because perhaps they're not terribly engaged by lecture-based classrooms, which has been also very traditional in our disciplines. Academic performance, a lot of faculty recruit based on, oh, these students are doing well in my class, but that doesn't necessarily predict how well a student is going to do in a laboratory, from a lecture class or something like that. And then a lot of these were mentioned: awareness, not having awareness of the opportunities, of the benefits. A lot of them don't know why they would do research if they maybe don't want to be a scientist in a lab down the road. A lot of them aren't aware of how to get the undergraduate research, and that's where what I mean by these cultural norms. Confidence to interact with faculty, financial and personal barriers, and the list actually goes on, but I'll leave it at that because that's enough barriers. But what I'll show you is, so back in 2014, when we started thinking like, wow, we should be giving students more research experiences. We actually didn't know how many students were doing research at that time. And so we put out a survey. This was one of my students, master students did this, put out a survey, and about 300 students that were primarily in their juniors and senior years got this survey. And about 91 of them actually expressed interest in doing research, but only 12% reported some sort of participation. And that 12% was actually kind of an overrepresentation, or it was inflated because some of them didn't really know what it was. So they were telling us about internships and like in hospitals, that kind of thing. And you know what? I'm having trouble with my internet today naturally, so I'm going to turn off my video. And then when we ask about the barriers, 45% lack of time, lack of opportunity, lack of awareness, but only 2% said lack of interest. And so that was positive, right? This just confirmed that we needed to work on this issue. 72% of our faculty at the time were mentoring students, but only at about a rate of 2.5 students per year. And again, they had a lack of time, funding, and space to help undergrads in the labs. When we looked at the demographics, the information or the data we got was even more dismal because it turned out that we were not equitably offering students research positions. And so some of the students who probably could have benefited the most were least likely to do undergraduate research at that time. And so that is when we asked ourselves, how can we provide all of our biology majors with research experiences? And what we came up with was to figure out what this whole thing was, like all the buzz was around cures, right? So course-based undergraduate research experiences, which had been published. We started to get publications related to the term cure because a lot of people had been doing research-based courses. But cures really started to hit the literature as something that more than just sort of a capstone course might be able to manage about the time that we were asking these questions in our department. So like 2014, stuff like that. And so I just want to ask a question now from the people who are here to see kind of what the familiarity is with cures. And so if you're able to find your virtual hand or your real hand, if you could let me know, raise your hand if you're familiar with cures. So you got some sort of familiarity with cures, course-based undergraduate research experiences. A few more hands going up. Okay. Leave your hand up if you actually teach a cure or have taught a cure before. Okay, good. We've got some other hands. Has anybody ever taught what we call place-based cures? So these are cures that maybe focus on a relevant location in your area, in your community, with your community. Okay, I see a kind of. All right. I got one more. Has anybody taught a cure that collaborates with another cure or with more than one course, whether it's in the same institution or a different institution? All right. Cool. Okay. So we've got a good bit of familiarity, and some of you have quite a bit of experience with the cures. And so what I'm going to talk with you about next is how we scaffolded curriculum around a really important issue. This is why we call this a place-based cure. And that issue was the health of and the human impacts on the American River and its ecosystem. And the American River runs through our campus. And so this is an example of a little offshoot of the American River right by our campus. And then some students also doing work in that lab. So I'm going to give you a very brief background of Series 1 and Series 2. But the goal of Series 1, it was funded by NSF and also WM Keck Foundation. It was 5 years. And our goal was to broaden participation in undergraduate research, study a local problem, which was the American River, and to scaffold the curriculum for multiple student experiences. We started this in biological sciences. But luckily, we were actually able to add chemistry, geology, and environmental studies faculty to a faculty learning community that we ran for 5 years. This resulted in 16 course-based undergraduate research experiences. Over 30 faculty were trained and involved. We stopped counting how many students engaged in these courses after a while, but we know it was over 5,000. And then we also helped another institution, Sac State, get a similar grant with just a slightly different theme. And so we call them our SIRIUS progeny. We have several right now. All right, Series 2 came along in 2020, and we expanded to 10 STEM disciplines on our campus. We created partnerships with 5 community colleges that are in our area. We still had the faculty learning community theme that ran throughout, but we decided to call it a community of transformation. And we also decided to start calling cures CALES, because when we integrated physics and math and engineering, the idea of research was really a sticky point for a lot of people. And so we just wanted faculty to design engaging curriculum that would reflect what students would be doing once they left the discipline and entered careers in that field. So we called them course-based authentic learning experiences. So I kind of go back and forth between CALES and cures, but we have all of the above. We also started to try to advance the design of interdisciplinary and also community-based cures with community partners. We also have a couple more serious progeny from our F2 generation. We have a project, an NSF project with engineers called Project ACE, and San Marcos, CSU San Marcos just got a NSF award as well, with our help. So that's really exciting. Okay, I am just going to say we've been studying this for a lot of years, and I'm very happy to share any of these articles. But what's super exciting too is that 2 of our faculty in Series 2 have also published their own articles. So most of these are published by my students and Team Beer and who are doing our research. But a couple of these are also articles in Journal of Physics by a couple of physics faculty who are part of our current network, and also a mathematician. So that's really fun. And I did want to share this little bit of research. So we're using social network analysis to look at how the dynamics of our community of transformation are changing over the period, as we're being very intentional about trying to form collaborations with our faculty. And all the different colors represent the different I can't even see. Oh, yeah, they're the different disciplines. But in addition to that, I'm sorry, the colors represent the different colleges. And so what we're really excited about is that this one big collaboration is actually between Sac State and also 4 of our community colleges. And so that's very exciting. But then we've also got a green blob over here that is part of they're all Sac State people, but they're across disciplines. And so that's pretty cool as well. We've been running these, we've been having these serious STEM conferences every spring for students in Cures to come and present as an entire group. So students from all of the colleges that are involved come to these and that's just proved to be a really neat networking event for them, because the community college students get to talk with the Sac State students, and also all of the different disciplines get to talk to each other, and they get to see how all of their work is contributing to this one project. And then I've also got some quotes here from students that I love, and we did in-class focus groups from a number of the classes that are involved. And these are what students are saying kind of about their projects and their classes. And so they're recognizing that benefits involve, giving them experiences like they would have in their career pathways. I love this one. I walked through the levee all the time, and I never even cared about what they were working on until I did this experiment. And now I think I'll always look into things in my area a little more, thanks to that experiment. So this is an engineering student, and we have a lot of work going on the levee on the American River. And so I thought that was cool. And I love this too. I have to read this too. I like how we're able to perform a collaborative project on a scale of an entire class. The things we can accomplish as a whole are greater and more interesting. It improved my ability to work as a team. So yay, that's really awesome. And then I'm just going to end this part before we start talking, just showing you some examples of our cures and our kales. So these are examples from community college, one of the community colleges, and they have a medical microbiology class that is identifying, isolating, quantifying coliform bacteria in water samples from the American River. There's been a lot of news reported about coliform blooms at different areas along the American River, especially when there have been encampments. And also, it's an urban area. There's a lot of pollution. We also have farming, and so there's runoff. So this was a neat way for this class, even though it's a medical micro class, to really contribute to the SIRIUS project. And then on the same campus, this is a collaboration between chemistry and biology faculty, who have a group of students that are using microfluidics based methods to look at different chemicals in the water samples. We've got at Sac State an advanced electronics and instrumentation course that is designing instruments for testing water properties in the river, like turbidity and flow, and then they're giving them to the introductory physics course, and those students are actually trying to use them to test these characteristics of the water, and then they're critiquing them and giving feedback back to the upper division class that then has to go back and try to make them more useful, I guess, in the next round. So that's been a really fun collaboration, and that's one of the articles that came out from our physics faculty that did that work. And then I was just going to show one more example of two different projects where faculty were collaborating with one or more community partners. And so Bushy Lake is an area that one of our environmental sciences faculty has been working on for years, and she works with a number of different community organizations as well as the city in doing restoration projects at Bushy Lake. And this was a really fun one for a field geography course where they weren't quite sure how they were going to contribute to the SIRIUS project, because they don't do research or field work like a lot of the other faculty that were participating, but they're more involved in like urban development. So they found a community partner down in our river district, and this river district they're trying to revitalize it. And so they worked with some business people and also some politicians to figure out how they could do several things to sort of make this area more welcoming to some of the new residents down there, because they've got some apartments. It's a mixed use area. So one of the things they did was they looked at formal, informal access to the American River, provided recommendations back to how they might improve some of those things. And they also thought about placemaking. So how could the river district, use the river kind of in their identity and how they're trying to market that region. So those are some examples. Oh yeah, and that's just a quote from a student who said, "I appreciated how much real world experience and contact I got with real life planners." And we know people have gotten internships with urban planners now from this class, and yeah, sorts of things. All right, so first, I think what I'm going to do first, actually, I'm going to come back to this, but I just want to ask now if there are any questions that I might be able to answer, because I know I flew through that because I wanted to have time for us to talk. But if you have any questions about the SIRIUS project, I'd love to answer them.
Kelly, I did have a question. I guess I'm thinking you had quite a number of faculty that joined the project, which is amazing. I love all the examples. How did you how did you bring them on board? How did you incentivize the faculty to do this type of research in their courses?
Yeah, that's a great question. With SIRIUS 1, it was easier because we were really focused on biology. And so when we wrote the grant, we asked for money to pay faculty summer salary to come together. We had a whole summer institute. We taught everybody, what we knew, but we were new to it as well. And so it was really more of sort of this group learning together how we might do this, right? And then but for the most part, we were offering summer salary for several years because then we all came back in the summer. We met during the school year to do different things in smaller groups, but then we would come back in the summers and we would pay faculty. But even so, even paying faculty, it's a better incentive, obviously, than asking them to do something and not paying them. But it can still maybe be insufficient. And so we spent a lot of time going around and talking to people, like knocking on doors. Tom Landerholm was the best at this. So he would knock on a door and, hope to be invited in. I think I'm breaking up again, aren't I? He'd hope to be invited in, and then he'd sit down and he'd go, "Hey, we've got this really cool idea. And would you be interested in doing, can you envision doing something in your classroom that relates to the American River?" And he'd throw out a whole bunch of ideas. And then he'd be, and then he's like, and would you join this group? And, so it literally, in what classes? And so it was really organic in SIRIUS 1. And so once we got enough people on board, and, as well as administration. So we also had to get administration on board. Once we did that and we got going, we got really lucky because our president at the time jumped on board. He loved it. So we were just the little poster child for anything and everything. And so really the word spread about what we were doing. And that helped actually motivate other faculty to want to be involved. It was pretty easy to get some of our faculty from geology and environmental studies and chemistry involved because we had a really good idea of how they might participate. And so, because it is sort of an environmental, ecological, project. With SIRIUS 2, it was much more difficult and it took several years because at the community college, Melanie, like, you were saying, they just weren't set up to do this. And so we had to work really hard again at building relationships. Fortunately, I had come from the community college before coming to Sac State. So I already had a lot of, friends and colleagues at the community college. And so I got them on board first. And then we went and we talked to every single dean. We talked to every single chair. We went and talked to departments. But we also did landscape analyses. Like we asked, we asked questions and surveyed faculty, trying to figure out, well, what would motivate you to do this? And so yeah, Series 2, even though Series 1 took off, Series 2 took a couple of years to get funding. The first time, one big piece of advice I tell people all the time now is if you're coming in as an R1 and you're maybe trying to work with, a comprehensive teaching institution, or you're coming in as an R2 and you're trying to work with a community college or something like that, you really have to show NSF or your funders that it is a true partnership, that it's not a top down, we're going to come in and tell you all what to do. And that has not been what it's been at all. But we had to convince people of that. That meant giving faculty at the community college plenty of money. More money, in fact, than we give our faculty at Sac State. We also, had a co-PI from the community college. There were a lot of different ways that we showed it was going to be a true partnership. So, but it takes a long time, and it takes, that's why I'm talking to you about 12 to 14 years of this work, is that it didn't happen overnight, and we had to build it pretty slowly. Yeah. I see a chat question. Roughly how much of the course time is spent? Oh, this is what I love. It can be everything from a couple of classes to the whole semester. And so we were very, very intentional about saying, we don't care if you check every single box, in the most rigorous way from the cure definition. We wanted people to be included because we also knew that if people came in, well, this happened to my own colleague, Tom Landerholm. He was developing a cure for a developmental biology class. And he's like, yeah, I can only give up 4 classes, 3 classes, labs. And by the end, there were 8 labs. That's half of our semester because number one, the students wanted more. And number 2, he just saw the benefits of it. And so we try to help people if they have the bandwidth to expand, but to start a little more reasonably, right? Yeah. Anybody have any other questions? If not, I was thinking, I don't know, Melanie. I'm just thinking maybe because we've got a fairly small group, so we might be able to just stay as a whole group. Would that be better, or go into maybe 2 breakout rooms? And I'll show you what my prompts, I'll show you what I was going to have people talk about. And with all the experience in the room, we might have people who are already doing this. And so sharing that would be really interesting, I think. But other than kind of the introductions, I was thinking of having people think about, are there contexts or issues or problems, anything you can ask a research question or a project-based or a design-based question about that involves either your campus, because a lot of our research actually takes place on our campus, in our arboretum, on the American River, all of that, or in the surrounding community. So a lot of our faculty have found community partners and have found ways to work with community, build community relationships so that there's this reciprocal relationship, and people in the community groups may be saying, hey, this is what we need. And then the faculty member can go back and do it, and then their students can share it. And then the students can say, hey, we thought about this. And then maybe the community group says, oh, I'd love to see that. So we've had some examples of that true reciprocity in that community engaged research. So that, and then also having people think about, who might you have that are, likely collaborators or partners either on or off campus, could be in a different discipline, or could be, outside of the campus. And then thinking also about supports and barriers. So I'm looking at the time. Let's see. Looks like we have, Melanie, we've got a little under 30 minutes, right?
About 20
20.
minutes. I have,
20.
yeah. I
Okay.
have 20 before the hour. I think that's great, Kelly. I think either way, whatever you think works best for you, or maybe we can ask our participants
Yeah.
what they think. We have probably a small enough group that we could have a group discussion.
A
I
whole
had
lot.
another maybe comment too. I that comes to mind is it's always the funding, right? So in today's landscape, where we might look for, that funding to support some of these projects.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so NSF is still funding some projects at this moment. A couple that I've helped with have just gotten funded very recently. However, a lot of our faculty currently are looking towards um, other bits of funding. So, like for instance, I'm thinking of one faculty member right now, and I'm gonna butcher the name of the organization, but it's like the American River Parkway, you know. So there's other or Botanical Society of America, you know. So you've got societies that sometimes give mini grants. You've got government agencies that will do some of this work, and also business partners. And so, you know, like with Bushy Lake, which I was talking about, um, because they are restoring, because they've got a restoration project going on, they're able to get small bits of funding from business partners in that area. Again, government agencies or nonprofits that want to partner with them. I've seen a lot of people partnering with nonprofits lately. But again, that's where building that reciprocal relationship is more advantageous because, you know, it's nice for our students to hear what you know, to get money from a nonprofit and maybe to get advice from a nonprofit. But if the students can actually work with that nonprofit to accomplish a goal, a shared goal, then there seems to be more money that's available to our students, right? Um, so I've seen money coming from those types of things. And you know, ours was a huge grant, but it's because we were paying, or at least the second one was. Our first grant was not that large, but our second one was large. But we were paying a lot of faculty, and that paying faculty costs a lot of money because of benefits and all of the other, you know, deductions. So if you're just doing something, you don't need that much money actually to do a lot of the things that we're doing in the classroom, especially field work where you can find some of these community partners. Um, Foundations, so the Spencer Foundation has been really trying to plug the gap that has that we've seen happen with NSF funding being pulled back. Um, does anybody else? I want to open it up here. Who else knows of some funding opportunities for these types of projects? I hope
feel like
funding.
funding is really hard, but we have a partnership that we're building with the Natural History Museum, which is really nice. So a couple of our faculty went and engaged in the BCEE net training for a cure, which uses museum specimens to like track evolution. And we
Mhm.
thought that might be like a way for us to sort of more easily slide into a place-based cure because we're in San Diego and we have a lot of amazing, cool species here, and we would like to focus on them and have students be thinking about the species around them. But our students have a lot of like transportation issues and can't like get places very easily necessarily. But the Natural History Museum is actually like less than a mile from our campus, and you can walk to it or use the bus to get to it really easily. And it turned out that they were really good partners. Like they were really interested in
Mhm.
partnering with us and having students come to them. And so that might be like another, like besides a nonprofit, local museums and like conservation centers and stuff are oftentimes like good partners. They can't usually give you money, but they can do things like take your students for internships and do other kinds of partnerships. And then potentially you could write grants together if you have the capacity.
That's actually, I'm so glad you mentioned that. We have a more recent faculty member that's joined us in Sirius, and she is restoring, we have an herbarium on our campus, and it was in desperate need of restoration and revitalization. She's also taken over our arboretum. And so both of those are now she's got students working as student assistants. She's got students doing working on the collections. So these are more project based. And why again we call them KALES, because not all of our students are doing research, but they're doing really legitimate, getting great experience, and could work with museums, digitizing and doing all of that kind of stuff. So those are great recommendations. Yeah. Well, let me just ask here, if because I know the funding thing is hard and you just have to keep your eyes and ears open. Sometimes though, if you establish the partnership, the funding can come later. You might not be establishing it for to actually get the funding, but that comes along with it. Is anybody else doing a place-based cure on their campus, and where they are studying something? Like for us, it was the human impacts on the American River and its kind of surrounding ecosystem. And that allowed us to bring in people from so many different disciplines to study that project or to study those issues. Anybody else doing anything like that? Or could you see doing anything like that on your campus? So do you have some opportunities?
I have one colleague who's doing that. The bacteria, I think, coliform or such in Hudson River or such. So that may be. I don't think I'm doing that. I don't know if the HHMI phages can be counted. It's sort of like I don't count it.
Yeah, phages is great though. And if you haven't adopted a cure and you're worried about sort of that workload and having the expertise because it's in an area that maybe, isn't one you studied, then doing a national cure, or a network cure. So you've got Tiny Earth Network, and actually one of our faculty that's part of the SIRIUS project, she does the Tiny Earth Network in her diversity of microorganisms. So they sample from our areas right around the American River and, in our campus, and then they're crowdsourcing antibiotics from the bacteria that they grow. So she's doing Tiny Earth Network, but then it's embedded within our SIRIUS project because she's applying it to, our place and to our interests. So there's Tiny Earth Network, there's phages, there's the Genetic Education Project. D2D is at Data to Design is at UC Davis. There's Basel. What am I missing? There's Small Earth, Small World. Wait, Tiny Earth, Small World. Yes, PAR, Prevalence of Antibiotic Resistance in the Environment. That's one. There are a couple others out there that I think I'm not thinking of off the top of my head.
Hi, Kerry. So you mentioned on funding opportunity. So saying about funding opportunity, and I started this year, but so I cannot, and I'm not community college faculty, so I cannot, but the NSF and HHMI collaborate, and then there's an opening posted this maybe summer for community college that want to start and join the phages, and then there's a grant program. I think I can put in a place here. So if anybody want.
And that's through HHMI, right? Is that opportunity?
That's a grant program from NSF.
Oh, from NSF. Oh.
So NSF, in other words, NSF is trying to help HHMI to recruit more community college faculty to join as a cohort, and then that's going to be that it's a it, well, once you get accepted, then you're going to join in CFHs, but you get that's a grant program. So let me go to NSF page because I
Oh,
opened a bunch of them, right?
yeah, great. And I think we'll know, I think there'll be some clarity with regard to, which programs are going to stick around. I know that IU's is still, IU's is still being funded. A lot of people I know got ELPSEs. I don't know the future of that grant. But one grant I would say through the NSF for community colleges is the Advanced Technology Education Grant, the 8 grant. And those are great grants. When I was at a community college, I actually had a couple of 8 grants. And you can even collaborate with 4 years, but the community college is the lead. Thank you. Thanks for this. Yeah, for the link. Appreciate that.
And also for community colleges, there's the Innovation in 2-year colleges, the ITYC. So that the grant needs to be hosted at the community college, but certainly, could look into collaborations with 4 years as well.
Yeah. Is there anybody else here who could, if you're not, especially if you've just got kind of siloed cures, 1 or 2 here or there, and they're not connected. Is there anybody here who, thinks they might be able to grow into having more of this network? We've just found that having people going through the same things and supporting each other through the good, the bad, and the ugly, with the cures has been a really it's been a real benefit for a lot of our faculty. And I'm always happy, I would say I'm always happy to share any of our grants. I've run around to a lot of different campuses and talked with their faculty, their colleagues about, how we've built the SIRIUS project. So that, and the other thing that's happened in our department is even though not everybody's doing a SIRIUS project anymore, more and more and more people are doing cures. And so it's just become kind of the culture. And the culture 14 years ago was to have a very boring cookbook lab because we looked at all of them because we wanted to know, like, maybe our students are getting these great experiences in their classrooms and we don't even need to write these grants. And then we looked at them and we were like, oh, no, that's not happening. We need to write the grants. So, yeah, so we loved it. I'll just kind of leave it at that. We love to share our experiences. We'll hand over our grants. We'll consult, whatever, if people are interested or if their campuses are moving in these directions. I know a lot of campuses are moving towards trying to build more experiential learning for students because our students are changing and they, there's AI and they don't want to come and just do something that they could do from the comfort of their own homes. And so I think giving them these authentic experiences, hands-on experiences, collaborative experiences, opportunities to network with community organizations, future employers, that's kind of the benefit that we, that's the added value we can give our students in college right now. So yeah, I think I'm probably about out of time, aren't I, Melanie? I'm sorry, I'm terrible at timekeeping and oh, you're muted.
Thank you. No, we do have a few more minutes, so
More
maybe
minutes?
if there's other, other questions or comments.
Or if anybody wants to share what they're doing or what they'd like to do.
I have a question, Kelly. So may know, and I guess I could always stop by your office and ask you. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is creating a KL for qualitative research. And I wonder if you have any thoughts about that. If there's anyone, I don't know of anyone within the series that has done that.
Hey, awesome. Yeah. So there are a couple of people that I know of who have developed science education, um, science ed research courses. So cures where the students in the cure do a science ed research project. And within those courses, they have they teach both qualitative and some quantitative methodologies. And so Katie Cooper is somebody who has run these. I believe Sarah Burnell, Katie Cooper. I know somebody else. Here we go. I know some others who have done that as well. So I think some stuff, and there have been some publications about the outcomes of that research.
Yeah, I know. So I know Katie Cooper just had, and there's a paper that they just came up with, about student stress. So yeah, but I was wondering if there's anyone within our or the SIRIUS network.
Oh no.
Okay.
No. All of our science education research, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, has been done by students who were not in courses. And so, yeah, the whole SIRIUS project is course based, but then we've been studying the outcomes uh, through traditional undergraduate research experiences, right? And yeah, we could chat more about that. Any other quick questions or insights to share on all of this?
I just wonder
Mhm.
if everybody here are community college faculty or some are 4-year college faculty, by
I'm
the way.
community college.
Who is that? That's community?
Oh, Heather.
Heather?
I'm at
Okay.
San Diego City College.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Heather.
I'm also community college.
Our others, Arik and I are 4-year. Amy, 4-year, adjunct at community college. Okay, Ohio State, 4-year at Colorado State. Okay, cool. Yeah, so good, a mix here. Yeah, and the cures, I mean, there's a whole network of community colleges that are really focused on undergraduate research. So that's the CCURI, CCURI network. They're very focused on undergraduate research. I'm not sure how many of them are cures versus how much is kind of that extracurricular that they're doing right now. I'd imagine they're doing some cures at this point. Yeah.
So for C phases, I really had hard time to separate cures and the regular RAM. So I ended up it must be stressful for student, but actually student caught up with, they enjoy, that's good. But I knew that the regular lab activity could be done in 2 hours, but I have 3 hours absurd. So I try to have 2 hours for regular lab and then 1 hour for fish hunting weekly. It was a little bit challenging to me, but that because it has to be very organized and condensed. But HHMI people also reviewed my plan, and then they told me this is too much. Then like a big school like University of Pittsburgh or such, they basically have different Mercure only lab course. But if I do as a small college faculty, I cannot do that. If I do like a small like a cure only, then student cannot learn. They also need to do the regular. It's a little bit difficult. So if I do cure, then I want to still have that other lab activity as well.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of our cures, they just run a couple of like, well, not a lot of them, but some of them do have a whole module where students are learning how to do the techniques, they're learning what they need to learn, they're reading the literature, all of that. And then on the back half of the class, they'll apply what they've learned at the, during the first part to, a novel problem or a novel research question. Yeah.
So we are at the top of the hour. I just want to thank you so much, Kelly, for talking about your project, and it's amazing, and for your insights and your advice. And thank you all for coming to our meeting today. I'm going to stop our recording. So maybe, Kelly, I don't know, you have a second or two if someone had a question, but I'm trying to find that.
Oh, you got the recording stopped. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Here it is. Wait.